Hello and welcome to this week's Devil in the Detail podcast. I'm Rob Paxton and we're here talking all things Salford Red Devils. Joining the show this week, as ever, we have Paul Whiteside. Right, Paul?
Hey, Rob, you okay?
How's your week been, mate?
Yeah, busy. Very busy, as usual. But no, I'm glad it's weekend, mate. I'm really glad it's weekend. It just seems to have dragged this week, really, with work and this, that and the other. So it feels ages since we played a game as well, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm looking forward to the match on Sunday. I was a bit nervous last night, with the meeting about the stadium, and that I was on call last night at work, so I didn't go until 10 o'clock, but I was keeping my eye on Twitter and, seeing what was going on. So yeah, I've had a few worries this week, but no, things are looking good now. Got a couple of days off, so all good.
Yeah, things are looking good. Paul, England in the Euro final. Everyone's in a celebratory mood. Joined by Paul Parkin, who's obviously also in a celebratory mood, but not about the football. Parkin, tell us about your big news, your big sporting news.
I won't go that far. I've had a message today through a chance meeting last week at Old Trafford at the cricket ground, not the football ground, by the way. I've not met Ole Gunnar Solskjaer yet. And it looks like I may well be getting a spot in the Lancashire County Cricket partially sighted team. Moving forward, to go and tour the country, so represent the Red Rose, which would be an absolute dream. So yeah, it becomes a bit of a shock when you meet somebody and they say something on a night and then whatever you tend to forget. But yeah, he's messaged me, he's true to his word, and hopefully I'll get into the fold as soon as possible. But there might be a problem if it starts interfering with rugby league. That's my England career might stop before it started if that's the case.
You're like a blind Brian Lara, Paul. That's what we're expecting.
Yeah, we're slogging that ball all over the show. Yeah, no, it sounds good to me. That sounds all right. Don't think I have much cop at cricket, but no, good luck, Parky.
Yeah, thank you. So well, I'll keep you posted on that one. See how we go.
It's going to be exciting, Park. You have to keep us in touch with all your goings on when you're taking over the cricket world. It's going to be exciting. I have a sportsman on the podcast every week. It gives us insight on what sportsmen what they do.
I won't go that far, Bob. You know me. I won't prepare in the best way. I know that. So I'm more getting involved for the social side. Let's say that.
That's good news, that Parker. So there's loads and loads to go at. We're going to look back at the fans meeting at the AJ Bell Stadium, which happened yesterday. We're going to react to that. We've got all the big news coming out the club as well. The other news, and then we've got the amateur report from Paul, and then we're going to preview the Castleford game, which is Sunday. So we'll start with the big fans meeting that happened yesterday at the AJ Bell. Yep, so the fans meeting happened yesterday, Parker. Quite a good turnout, really, considering all the COVID regulations, and it was very informative as well.
Yeah, really good turnout. I was shocked when we turned up, and there was a load of cars in the car park, and my brother was saying, well, look at this. I said, I'll probably go to the gym, the gyms or whatever it is. There might be an event on or whatever. And he went, no, look, and they all, you see all the Salford shirts, and there was a big queue outside. I was like, what's going on? We don't get queues like this on a match day. And in fact, if we did, we wouldn't be in this situation we're having this meeting for. Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I went there with an idea of what was going to be discussed. And I came away thinking, yeah, that's what I expected. And when it's all laid out in front of you in bare facts, the situation has come or will be untenable in that way to be at that stadium. So it was good to hear, because you can hear all you like about it cost this much, it cost what, but you don't actually hear the ins and outs. And last night, I mean, Paul King, a man that it just keeps going up and up in my estimation. Respect for him. He's so truthful, and he as was mentioned last night, he's risking a hell of a lot keeping this club afloat. He's not a rich, wealthy benefactor. He's doing it out of the love of Salford Rugby League Club, and he mentioned several times last night about being a Salfordian, and what it means. And as you'll probably mention, there was 3 options on the table, and the third one he's not very open to, and it was delightful to hear that, which we'll talk about. But no, great turnout, really good, well organised, COVID safe as well. and it went on longer than I expected. The Q&A and everything else was fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think they were really honest. Paul King, like you said, a natural leader. Everyone kind of, the shoulders go up, don't they, when he walks into a room. He came up with obviously the facts of the situation is that Sale Sharks are interested in buying it. But they said they won't obviously make a move until our future is decided. Coscos, which is a company formed by Peel and the council, are keen to sell. So obviously Salford were offered to buy it first, but we weren't able to raise the 10 to 15 million pounds to buy it, Paul. So at least everyone knows, no one's in the dark now about what situation is.
No, that's right. I think we all had a rough idea, didn't we, about it? And I mean, like you said, they're £15 million. Who's got £15 million just swilling about in the back pocket? They haven't. It's an awful lot of money, isn't it? And I was worrying about it last night, and I saw things on Twitter, and I was on a job actually, and I was just reading a few of the things, and I thought my heart sort of went up a bit really, and it was quite heartwarming to read things. And I thought, you know what? I don't really know what I was worrying about, because Paul King's a smashing man. And he does a great job at the club, and knowing he's there looking after it, it's like, he's looking after it in the right way. He's like a proper caring sort of person. It's not like having some guy who you think, bloody hell, what's he going to do? I can't trust him. He might do a backdoor deal. At least with Paul, he's straight with you. He's honest with you. And I was reading bits of things, what people said, and I thought, yeah, I feel a lot more at ease now with it. So whatever way it goes, and I've said it before, I'd stand by the club, whatever happened, whatever league we ended up in, wherever we played, I always would do. But my only fear, and I had the fear a few years ago, was the name change and moving and things like that. And I don't think I'd be able to carry on going or be associated with it. So I wouldn't want to lose it. But I think, judging what you two guys have said and what the things I've read, I think that's sort of a last resort. So yeah, I think we've just got to do our bit now, hasn't we, as supporters, and get behind the team. I think really my rallying cry now would be to the public of Salford to get behind it. If you want this team to be in the top league, we need to get behind it, because without supporters and without people going, we might not be able to play at the top table. But I'm not as worried as what I was, guys. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I wasn't there, so I'm only going off what I've heard. But it sounded a positive meeting from where I was sat.
Yeah, I think the important thing, Parky, was the data that he gave us. He talked about obviously the stadium when Salford first got to the stadium, and the forecast of potentially 8,000 fans, and now they've sort of used that as a calculation on rent and stuff to be paid. And because we weren't reaching that 8,000 fans, and we were only getting sort of 3,500 ish. By the sort of the back end, we were losing kind of over sort of £750,000 to £1 million drop off, which is a lot of money for us, and also the stadium people and the council, who have actually sort of banked on that money coming in. And I think it's, when we a bit on the thing on Twitter, a bit kind of a thread about it, that 8,000 I don't think was ever sort of achievable, and it's kind of fantasy numbers for me. And it feels like everyone got sucked into this, and now we're in this situation where we are.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that 8,000 figure. I have no doubt, in the best interest that people we thought we could get 8,000. We were never going to get every week. That's I mean, that's just a ridiculous notion. And anybody who came up with that is living in cuckoo land. There are possibilities in big games, Warrington Saints, Wigan. You could, if your home support's good enough, you could tip 8,000, but you're not going to get it every week. It's just not there, sadly. So that's crazy to start with, and it was always going to tell in the end. If we'd have been a bit more realistic, I mean, we were leaving the Willows on 4,500, 5,000, and just by moving to around, if you build it, they will come scenario. 3,000 people are going to jump on the bandwagon. The one thing we needed from the start, and it's slightly going off, is success. We didn't hit the ground running. We didn't have any success until the last couple of years, in real terms. So people, you're talking generations of people who haven't seen anything good. So I don't know where they just thought these people were going to magically come from. But moving on, like you say, them figures were put there, and as a club, the rent is worked out on that. I mean, the first 3 years there was no rent, and then it was a stepped situation.
Yeah.
And now we're at a point where we can't afford these repayments. These are out of our league completely. And if we even attempted to reach paying, I think was it £450,000 a year?
Yeah.
We'd have no club. We'd have no players. We could play there. Yeah, we can stay there, but you're going to have a lot of amateur players, and that defeats the object. So, really bad calculations from the start. I still think, and I think I may have said it to you last night, I think it was a rush project from the start. We seem to have straight away from the transport situation. That seemed to be an afterthought after we'd built, or after Kostkos had built a stadium. Not how do we get people here? What's the access like? Is there? And over the years, it has got slightly better. But to start with, and I spoke to people today. I've kind of canvassed a bit of an opinion as to why people probably don't go or whatever. To people who have been, and it was them little things that turn people off. You only have one chance to make that impression, and people were turning up at the ground. There were them delays. I know they've cleared now quite a lot from the car park. There was the fact that on a Friday night, there's only one bus getting out of there back into Salford. People couldn't get to and from the game, or they were getting back too late or whatever else. All these little things added up. And people said to me today that they've probably been 2 or 3 times since it's been open. They've tried it, they didn't like it. So I think the whole planning was wrong. I think, the original idea that John Wilkinson had way back when was a fantastic idea and would have secured the future of the club. And it was what we wanted. We would have been paying a peppercorn rent. We'd have made money on match days off the stadium. It was our ground. And as soon as that got taken out of our hands, that's where the problem started. And that was 10 years ago. So it was never going to get any easier. So the figures are terrifying. They really are. For a club like Paul pointed out, that we had every year we have one attendance over 6,000 since we've been there.
The stats he said was 135 games, only 16 games were over 5,000, which is, when you think about it, if you dig a bit, you think, it's never going to happen. But obviously, we look back at the timeline, because now we've got sort of the timeline of what they were paying and what was happening in the world of Salford Red Devils. And obviously 2012 we started at the AJ Bell, so we weren't paying anything for the first 3 years, and then Marwan came in 2013, and I don't think you can blame sort of Marwan Kukash, because he's only looking at the figures which the council were looking at the time. So I could understand why he did what he did early doors, because he just wanted to promote the club, because he's thinking, I can make Salford big and everyone sort of talking about Salford, everyone ought to come and watch Salford. And he probably thought that process, Paul, would jump us to 8,000. It didn't, but I can understand why he did what he did now.
Yeah, but everyone was talking about it for the wrong reasons, weren't they?
This is true.
Nothing was right. And just me thinking back now, you just mentioned there, leaving the Willows. When we left the Willows, that 2011 season, for want of a better word, we were crap. That last season at the Willows, we was garbage. I mean, look at the last game. We got 11,000. We got absolutely tonked off Catalan. So we didn't leave the Willows with any sort of momentum. We brought a coach in who stung about, didn't he, and then left. And it was you didn't leave on good terms for me. It was the season just. I remember losing to OKR in the cup, 25-0 at home. And I thought, God, this is our last ever Challenge Cup game at the Willows, and we got stuffed. And it was just, I don't know. Then we moved, and I think when we moved, I remember saying to my dad at the time, it all feels a bit rushed. We've moved here to this ground, and it felt. I'm not blaming John Wilkie. I'm not blaming the previous regime. It felt like the Super League had put pressure on us. Oh, you've got to go. You need a stadium and all that. And it's like we panicked. And I remember thinking at the time, a stadium would have been miles better at sort of West One. There, I work around there quite a lot now, and every time I drive past, I think, God, a stadium would be brilliant, right near Trafford Park, right near the motorway, right near tram links. It's just the wrong place. And if we had had a stadium there, you might have ended up like Warrington. Look where their ground is. We could have been a similar model to them. So I think the whole thing was rushed, and we ended up in the wrong place. And I look at the stadium now, and it's a great facility. It's brilliant. I love going there. I enjoy it, and I really enjoy it. But I think, it's the wrong location for us, and I think that's why a lot of people don't go. You got your diehards who go anywhere, but I think that's been the main reason for it. The lack of success as well. You think back to the 2012 season, the first season in the stadium was poor. The second season, I think we finished bottom. 2013 was awful. So it did take us a while to get going, and then we got to the grand final, and things just start looking up, and then COVID strikes. So it's like it has been difficult, and I feel for Paul King and Bleasy and everybody else because it's tough. And I'm just hoping that when this COVID sort of settles down later this summer, and perhaps next season we can have a bit of luck, we have a decent run, and crowds can start going up. But that's all in the future. But that's my thing in the past. I think perhaps it was a bit rushed, and the original plans that we saw for Wilkie Stadium, I remember seeing them, looked amazing, didn't they? And that never seemed to come to fruition. I don't know what happened, and I don't know the ins and outs of things, and all the backhand shakes and things that went on, and there was a bit of recession at the time as well, wasn't there? So it's difficult. It is difficult, but you're left with this problem that we've got now. We've got to work around it, and I think the guys we've got at the club at the moment, thank God, have got the club at heart, and I think they'll do the best job for us.
Yeah, I think Paul King said a lot, Parky, about, he said he wants the club to stand on its own 2 feet, and he doesn't want them to leech off everyone else.
Yeah.
And obviously, looking now we've got the timeline and what was going on. Year 4 we started to pay, and then obviously year 5 onwards we were looking at paying full rent, but we never actually did, Parky. He said that we're paying between 120 and 150,000 a year when really we should be paying 450. So you can't blame the council, because the council have done the best for us, because obviously we should be paying them full back, but we're not.
Yeah, I mean that was something Paul was keen to express last night, wasn't it? This is nobody's fault except perhaps ours in many ways. He was deflecting anything from Sale, the council, anybody involved, and rightly so. I mean, it's easy for people to sit back on Twitter or whatever else and slag everybody off. I know Gary Neville got bashings off certain fans on Twitter, and he might actually turn out to be our white knight at this point. So be careful what you say about people. When it was laid out bare for us, we don't have an option. And listening to Paul talk, you could tell it himself. He's this way. He doesn't want to leave that ground, really. He don't want to leave the facility, but there isn't a future there. And in 2 years' time, when probably Sale have full control of it, they will want their rent paying. There won't be a case of, oh, it's okay, somebody will cover that. We know that the partner company between the council and Peel are topping up what we're missing out, but we're leaving off at the moment. And that's a huge thing, because they're not going to do that. The council certainly can't afford it. And Peel Holdings, in these times after COVID, they'll be checking their accounts now and going, we can't carry on doing this. Salford will have to pay the full lot. And by that time, Paul said it could begin with a 6 figure.
Yeah.
So we could be talking £600,000 plus a year to play there. We can't do that when we only receive 1 million in the first place from Super League or anything else. You're losing your squad to pay your rent. It's not viable. And when it was all laid out, it's as straightforward as that. We have to leave, unless in the next few weeks I can win the Euro. I'm trying. I am trying. I've not checked my ticket on Tuesday yet, so this might all be nonsense. But and that's not going to happen. I mean, I'm surprised in this day and age that Sale are actually considering forking out 15-16 million pounds to buy a stadium. I know in the long term, over a 25-year mortgage, if you like, it'll work out better for them. But at the moment, I don't know. I find it a little bit strange. Who's got that kind of money just to stump up and buy a stadium? But that's their problem, not ours. But I think moving forward, there is no option in that stadium, sadly. And as much as it was built for Salford and the people of Salford, myself, and I know Shirley Bradshaw and a few others, we spoke at the government. We got called in by the government initially for the planning permission and the council, and we spoke in the chamber on behalf of the club. And a lot of people put a lot of time and effort in to get the initial John Wilkinson plot, to start getting developed. And then what transpired there, I won't go into, because legal dealings and that kind of thing. I'm not interested really now. But then we were the seed was planted that we needed a new stadium still. and I think we'd already sold the Willows by the point of this becoming an issue that we've now sold the Willows, but we can't build our own stadium. So somebody's going to have to step in and help, and that's when the council and Peel obviously looking out probably for themselves in many ways with more land around there and that kind of thing. So it was rushed, but it had to happen. We'd sold the Willows, we weren't staying. There's housing going on there no matter what we wanted, and now the same thing's happening. We haven't got a choice, and we've got 2 years to make this work. And the hard work starts now. And like Paul said, and like you said, Robert, I think we've definitely got the right people at the top, and especially in Paul. I think you could hear it last night in his voice. He was determined, but he'll take it. He will see this through no matter what happens, and whatever the decision of Salford fans is, and I can't imagine for one reason why it would be, but if the decision by the majorities will move out of Salford into Manchester, he'll walk away then, but he'll get us to that point. And I can't ask for more from that man who realistically has been defaulted into this role. And I'm sure him, and you mentioned it a few times last night about his wife. I'm sure she'd rather not be doing it, but he's risking a lot, and I don't think there's a Salford fan out there who can't have anything but respect for him.
He's like the first adult in the room in this period of time, and that's the biggest compliment you can say, I think, because obviously we've had dreamers, haven't we? We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and he's come in and said, this is what we can do, and it's realism, and us fans have to kind of wake up to that and realize that we are where we are, and we're going where we decide to go. The three options he gave us, he had the Braveheart option, which was remain at the stadium. There was the Black Hole option, which was buy a sort of a new home in Salford, or outside of Salford into Manchester, Parker. Talked about remaining at the stadium, said it would cost us an extra £450,000, which would have to come off the playing budget, which means you're going to get less players for your money, which means you're going to go down, which then means you lose 1.5 million quid for your playing budget. It all comes down to, I think it's 100k if you go down. So yeah, that's just not going to be an option, is it really?
No, the other thing is if you do end up signing substandard players, because you're paying your rent, fans are going to walk away. Because you're going to get beat every week, and if you do get relegated, more fans will walk away. You'll end up with your hardcore of about 1,600, and you can't survive in Super League doing that. So that's the truth of it. The second option, it's quite clear from the slide that came up on the screen that what was meant by that and where was meant by that. There is nowhere else in Salford. There's no spare land in Salford.
No.
It's either built on by developers for housing and flats and everything else, or it's our last bits of green belt, which we can't afford to lose. So we know we're talking about Moor Lane, which comes with its own issues. The size of it, for one. The access around the area and the residents is another. The hospitality side of it, we can't afford to lose that. That would be a big. If we're going to make any money off this, that's where a lot of money comes from. And if we can't offer that, we're going around in circles. So it will have its own problems. But I know Paul said he met with Gary Neville on Monday, was it? And had a brief chat about it. And Gary seems very, very kind of open to it. And I'm sure in many ways, Salford City would see it that if the rugby leagues were there, it would be used 365 days a year, or basically be open all year for football in the winter, rugby in the summer, and we would be paying them some kind of rent or whoever, and that will help them because their rates will come down in many ways. You know what I mean? You can split it. It works both ways, but there is a lot of work to do. I mean, I've been to Moor Lane in many guises over the last 20 odd years. Somewhere I used to spend a lot of time. And now you look at it and it's completely transformed to what it was, but still not Super League standard in so many ways. But there is scope because them stands are basically Meccano, and you could take them down and rebuild. It is landlocked mostly, certainly on three sides, So I'm not sure, but over a period now, in the next couple of years, that's something you can discuss. As long as we know we're going to have a home to go to, that is going to cost us less than £450,000 a year, and allow us to stay in Super League if the RFL allow. It is the easy option and the most sensible option out there.
Yeah. Talking about option 2, which was the new home in Salford, like you said, Moor Lane, the capacity I heard isn't the problem. 5,000, I think 2,000 seat and a 5,000 capacity. The problem is the runoff areas, which is the dead ball line and stuff like that. He said he's obviously got the Rugby Football League inspectors in. You're going to obviously try and get them in eventually, Paul, to inspect it and see if we can go to Moor Lane if it is an option. So we are kind of edging our bets. He also said that obviously the other option, which is go to Manchester, is doing the same for that. So I suppose he's keeping a foot in each pond, even though he don't want to go to Manchester.
Not an option, mate. Going to Manchester, you got Manchester, it just finishes, doesn't it? We end up being Manchester, you lose all your supporters, the club dies for me. Because if people in Manchester are interested, they come now, want to Salford, so don't. So that's a non-starter for me. The Moor Lane situation, I wasn't so sure whether Moor Lane would meet Super League criteria, but from what you're saying, it does. And you know, the capacity of it doesn't really worry me because we never really get more than 5,000 anyway.
Yeah.
Like you said before, that stat, and I was thinking the other day, I thought we never seem to. The AJ Bell have got that many. I can think of a few games like a Bank Holiday Monday against Wigan, I think a few years ago where we got a few. So the capacity doesn't worry me. If I had the option, I'd probably go. I wouldn't mind going there. I work around there quite a lot. I don't know. As long as it's still in the city, I think you'd make it your own. I think support as the family supporters we'd probably make that our own and we'd enjoy it. And it is what it is. You make the best of things, don't you? And I think that's what Salford people do. So I wouldn't really worry about that. But I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, if we went to Moor Lane, would it be forever? I don't know. It'd be great if someone could come in with some money and back the club. You know, you don't know what's around the corner, do you? In the next 2 years, somebody could come in with some money. I don't know. We'd have to just hope that happens. But we need to have like these contingency plans in place, don't we? It's going to be a rough ride, I think. But I just hope the public of Salford get behind the team a bit more as well. As I said before, you know, if they do want a rugby league team, you know, you've got to show us that they want it. I speak to loads of people at work and say, "Oh yeah, I used to go." And if you want the team to still be there in 20 years, you need to go now and watch them now because this is when we really, really need you. So it is going to be interesting. But I wouldn't have a problem with going to Moor Lane. I wouldn't. It's not the AJ Bell, but it might be. It might keep us going. It might be something that keeps us going. We need somewhere, don't we? The other option, I think, and nobody mentioned it the other night, and you guys haven't mentioned it, was perhaps ground sharing with somebody else. I know there was a rumour flying around the press box the other week when we was at the Leeds game. Want to rob? A few people mentioned to us about they'd heard about us sharing with Lee and things like that. That doesn't seem to be an option. It's not come up on the table. So I'd prefer to go to Moor Lane than go out with the city and share with Lee Centurions. Nothing against them, but so Moor Lane does seem a decent option, but. See what happens. Let's just hope someone wins some money. The next
there will be sort of pitfalls, Parky, which we need to avoid. Parking, funny story. Every time I mention Moor Lane to me dad, it's like he's got a trigger. He just says can't park around there, can't park around there. It's like a reflex action. But I suppose, you know, the way the world is now and the environmental pressures that we're all experiencing, maybe we could probably work on that, maybe get some park and ride towards the stadium or something like that, something that the council maybe and the club can sort of communicate with each other about. Might be a good news story, that environmental and that. And then also there was office space which did need as well, because by the sound of it there's not much of it at Moor Lane, so that's another thing they have to look at. And also when they host matches, Parky, the staff wages, people in the burger vans and the kiosks and the stewards, all that money is in the price we pay at the AJ Bell Stadium. So if we were at Moor Lane, it'd be different. We'd have to pay them.
Yeah, they are already there though, to be fair. You
Yeah.
know, so and these people who do, I think Seven Brothers have their own bar there, that kind of thing. But it benefits them as well. If the stadium's open all year, they make more money all year. It's quite straightforward. you know, and the parking thing is absolutely right, and it's something else I've discussed today about the park and ride. Salford City do it from just near the prison. You get there and they ferry you up because the residents around there are very strict on the match days. No parking zone around the ground. It is a nightmare, really is, and I don't fancy walking up Moor Lane. It's quite a steep hill, and after a belly full of beer or something like that, it wouldn't be the best. So these are small things, but if we can get nailed down now that's where we're going to go, these are issues over the next 2 years that we as fans and as the club working together can iron out. They're little things realistically, but weren't thought of when we moved to the AJ Bell.
Yeah.
Now we can make them wrongs right. We can do it the right way. We can make it work. As I said before, the ground at Moor Lane, whether it's 5,000 or whatever it is, can be extended. Them stands can be made bigger. They're literally like a Meccano set. They just put together and flop them down. So that's going forward again, not this year, not next year, whatever. But, you know, if, like Paul says, are we going to stay there forever? Are Salford City going to stay there forever if they carry on their progress? No, they're going to look to move. They might want to move to the AJ Bell one day and leave that place. And then it becomes hard. You know, there's a lot of options there. But going back to something Paul said about the people of Salford, and I can't echo it enough. And we've said it for years, and I don't get it why people don't go, oh, you're rubbish. Well, other teams are rubbish, but the fans go. You know, I've never had an excuse. And I said to you before, Rob, that if the crowds we get now at 3,000, 3,500, whatever, as an average, if 1,500 people turned up extra, just Salford fans, not away fans, that's a different matter because they don't turn up anymore. We have a lot less away fans than we've ever had turn up for the AJ Bell for whatever reason. Again, they might not like going. There's no pubs really near it or anything like that. Anyway, but that 1,500, if you average it out between tickets, so adults and kids or whatever, you might be saying 15 quid a head. That brings in over a season, not far off 300 grand. Now, that doesn't sound an amazing amount, but that 300,000 aligned to the 150,000 we're already paying, we're covering the rent of the AJ Bell. We don't have this problem as such. You know what I mean? And if that had happened for the last 10 years, while we've been at the AJ Bell, how much money have we saved? How much money have we got saved up? You know, the people of Salford have let Salford down. And I'm a very, you know, proud Salfordian, and I know most people are. You ask people from Salford where they're from. Very few say Manchester. Very, very few. And yet, if there is this pride, why is it not shown in the sporting teams? You know, why is it never? It's never echoed in that way. And it's not all because they don't like the ground. It's not all because they can't get transport there. It's not. There is something in the psyche of this city that's very different. And the last 2 years of success that we had, certainly up to the grand final, you saw that a little bit of a swell of it. But at the start of the next season, that had gone. Even though we'd played in a grand final, we'd been excellent for back end of that season, more than any of us dreamt of. You know, if I'd have said to you at the start of 2019 what we did at the end of the year, it wasn't going to a grand final. It's probably booking a holiday and going off somewhere. And the people turned up for that, and the Wigan game before it, you know, a bit of a following, and going to Headingley when we beat Leeds with great following. At the start of the next season, for about 2 games, we might have got 5,000. And then we lost a couple of games, and straight away, they've gone again. There's no sticking by it. And it's them very people that we need, and the city needs, if it wants to be an elite city and have elite sport teams, and being able to play in an elite stadium, which we cannot do now.
We need 1,500 more, Parky, or the fans we have now find another 170 quid each.
That's not an option, is it? Really isn't in these trying times that you know. And let's not forget, Salford's not a rich city.
No,
you know, the citizens of this place, we're not flush with cash. You know, I'm not saying everybody, obviously, but it's a very working class place, and 170 quid per person it's not going to happen. That's just like buying, you know, an extra season ticket or something. You can't do it. So, yeah, it's left a massive gap. And interestingly, sorry, I'm ranting again here, but when you think back to the Willows, and I'm not going all rose tinted, but how many times would we get a decent crowd in? If it was a big match, you would get these big crowds. And like say the season we had in 2019, that'd have been at the Willows. I think you'd have seen a massive difference. Don't know what the difference is. It's another sport. It's a different ground, but it's still your team playing it with more success. So why didn't we double our crowds rather than halve them? I don't know. I haven't got the answer. I can't get into everybody's head, unfortunately. But I'm obviously very biased with it. But he's caused us to get into this problem. And I'm not just blaming the people of Salford. The club have made massive mistakes along the way, and everybody else. But it all adds up. And now we're in this situation. It's time to look to the next step.
It is, Paul. The next step is you servicing a few more boilers and putting another 170 quid in, or finding 1,500 people.
Do you know what? If I could, I'd do anything for him. I mean, I'll be straight with you, and I've told you before. I wasn't born in Salford, and I never tell anybody I'm from Salford. I'm not. I was born in Rochdale. I was raised in Rochdale, lived there for 20 odd years. But my dad's from Salford, and from being 4 years old, I had that drummed into me. Well, I went to my first game at 6 months old, and I've always been an adopted Salfordian, and I'd do anything for the club. I really would. I'd go to the moon to watch a match. I really, if there's a match on, I'm there. And I don't get other people's mentality when they don't go, and it frustrates me. And I worry about the club, and I worry about, and perhaps when I shouldn't do, my wife says, "What's the matter with you? What are you worrying about Salford? They don't worry about you. They don't pay the bills." But I love the club and do anything for the club. And if I could do some more service and get some more money, I would do. And I get worried about. I don't want to lose the club. I don't want to not be in my life, because I couldn't live without them. I really couldn't. And I just wish that we could have more people with that mentality. And I still think we can. I still think we can do things, and I still think we can get good crowds. And just before, when you were talking about that 8,500 at the AJ Bell, I remember hearing that when we first moved, and I remember saying to my dad, "I can't see us getting 8,500.
Yeah,
it's a lot, that." And I remember him saying to me, he said, "You know what, Paul?" He said, "We didn't really get that many in the 70s. He said, "You've only got to look at his scrapbooks, and there's games there in the mid-70s where they were getting like 7,000, 7,500. They were winning the championship, so we weren't getting huge crowd. I mean, some games they did. Don't get me wrong. There was games where they got full houses, but I can remember when I first started going to the Willows, the only time you really got a big crowd was when we played Wigan. You play Wigan, and they'd bring loads of people, wouldn't they? And they'd pack the North Stand out. I mean, even St Helens used to bring that many. So Wigan did, didn't they? But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is with the public of Salford. I don't. I think there's a lot going on. There's football. I think football. If there wasn't any football, you'd probably be all right. But I always say, if you go to sort of Leigh, Warrington, Wigan, St Helens, they're rugby league towns, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And rugby league's in their psyche. In Salford, I don't think it is. They're born with the ball in their hands, aren't they? There, and it's just part of it. Salford's not. There's a lot more going on, and you've got a lot more competition there. It's a very cosmopolitan place. You got to St Helens. A lot of my wife's family's from that neck of the woods, and without going into detail, there's probably not a lot of people from other nationalities in St Helens. It's fairly sort of an English sort of place, isn't it? And I'm not going to say they're backward, but you know what I mean? It's a lot more old-fashioned. It's a lot more old-fashioned town. Manchester, Salford, you're looking, with Chinese population there. We've got a big African population around Moston where I live. And, great. It's great. It's cosmopolitan, but you've not got that traditional rugby league. You try to sell it to people that are new to the environment. So I'm getting all geographical here now, aren't I? But it's difficult. It's a massive place, Salford, now. And you look at the amount of people who've moved out and left, and new people have come in. And not everybody knows about the rugby league team. You could ask, I don't know, so many thousand people in Salford, and they've probably never heard of them. So that's the message we've got to get out over the next few years to the public of Salford about the club, and tell them it's there. If you tell them it's there, then you've got a chance of them coming.
Yeah, the future's bright, Parky. The plan is to obviously build a sort of community feel through the rugby club. The foundation are doing a fantastic job. And like Paul King said to me on the previous podcast, it's the best kept secret, really. We need to kind of get that out to sort of the media and let them know that, we do fantastic stuff in the community, which will help.
We say every week, don't we, about what's happening with the foundation and everything else. And we've said it since the first time you guys had me on way back when. We mentioned it then that people don't hear about anything. We don't shout from the rooftops, and that's what we need to do. We need to advertise ourselves and let people know. There's people in this community benefiting so much. That was a magic like that, Paul.
Yeah. There he is. Getting abducted.
No.
Help! Get him!
What's
Safe.
going on?
Cheers, Ellen.
Poltergeist, Yeah, and the stuff they do, it affects people's lives day to day, not just rugby league related. And nobody knows about it. And all people think of is that rugby team. It's just them. It's not just them. It's what it offers back. And I forget the lady's name who spoke last night. She asked the question, and she mentioned the pride that this rugby club gives to this city. When we make the final or we have a great result, everybody buzzes. It does give you that lift, and it is great, the input, and it needs supporting. And the only way we're going to do that a lot of the time is tell people how good it is. We've got to tell them. And it's not something that Salford Rugby League Club has ever been good at, spreading the gospel as such. And I just hope that now with Paul King in there and Bleasy and people like that, and the work that John Blackburn and his team, Danny Barton and them guys, that they do, we can get that message out and people start to realise that it's not just a sports club. It is part of the community and a huge part of it, and it needs help. It needs nurturing.
Yeah, he talks about supporters' trust and getting them involved and hopefully building the base, Paul. And that's the important thing. I think, obviously, it's not just about us supporters. It's about reaching out to the city. And that's the next step. And it's how we get to that point. It seems like we have this conversation a lot over the years. And we're talking about investment in schools and local clubs and things like that. It's when and how long it takes for that to pay off for me to see if it's going to be a success or not.
Yeah, things like that take a long time, don't they? It takes money and funding and things like that. But like Parky said, I've said it to you before loads of times. You've got to spread the word yourself, haven't you? You've got to tell people we're good. I think sometimes at Salford over the years, the years I've watched them, we seem to have a bit of an inferiority complex sometimes, and think we're not as good as St Helens, or we're not as good as Wigan and this, that, and they don't worry about them. Let's just tell people about our club. Let's be proud of our club. I mean, we've not got the resources that all these other clubs have got, but I think sometimes we punch above our weight and we do well. I mean, you look at now, we've been in that Super League now for quite a long time. I mean, a few years now since we got back promoted, and all right, we've not always been brilliant, but we don't spend like teams like Warrington. Look at the money they sort of spend. Warrington, whole teams like they're spending loads of money. So the way we've done things to stay there, I think we should be proud of ourselves. And we need to tell people that. And I think we get an awful lot of bad press for over the years for our academy and saying, we've not produced players. When you go look at the Super League now, the amount of players that have come through Salford, we should be telling people that, saying, yeah, that's Theo Farge, Mark Sneed, he came through our system. Let's let people know about it. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom at Salford, not at all. But it's got to be a long-term project now. This, and I'm just glad like we said, we've got Paul King there leading us, and I think it's difficult at the moment for crowds and that because of COVID. I think next season, hopefully, when there's no restrictions and we can have as many people there as we can, I think that's when we've really got to hit it then. If we've still got Richard Marshall there, he'll be looking at players to sign and that. This season, I think it's very, very hard to judge things. Very hard to judge the players, the coaching staff, and anything because it's so sort of vague, isn't it? At the moment, life's very sanitised, isn't it? So I think next season could be the catalyst for us. Really, we need a good news story in the close season and sort of pick up some momentum.
Yeah, Parker, Paul King didn't entertain option 3 really. George Harborn, he basically said that there was no obviously plan to change the name if we did move out, but if we were to move to Manchester or anything like that, and Manchester Council were to house us, like Paul King said, they'd probably want something for that. So, like I say, Salford is a proud city, and I'd hate for us to have to do that to survive.
Yeah, a couple of points there. The first one was it's the first time I've come across George, first time I've ever heard him speak or anything like that, and I was I was hugely impressed. I know my brother was as well. He came across magnificently. He knows his stuff. He knows the game, and he understands rugby league already. He understands the restrictions when he was going about club sponsorship and that kind of thing, and the fact that you can throw as much money as you want at a rugby league team. There's no money in it. If you win the league and the Challenge Cup, you will by doing that, by spending as much money as you can, that sponsorship money will not cover what you've paid. So you've got to have a rich benefactor who does it from the love to spend that money to win your trophies. That's the sad thing about rugby league, and you don't need me to go on and tell you what I think of the RFL and Super League anyway. So the money's not there for that. So yeah, George was brilliant, great to listen to, and I'm sure with people like him involved in his experience, that'll work in our favour. Yeah, the Manchester thing is a no-goer. Marwan mentioned it, muted it a few years ago, didn't he? He didn't like it, took his ball home. He wasn't impressed with our response to that, and I don't know what he expected. We've mentioned a few times how proud most of us are of Salford, and this is 150 years of rugby league or rugby within this city, and it can't just be wiped out, can't be taken away from us. No problem in Manchester at all, none whatsoever. Fantastic city, great people, just like Salfordians. We're all scratching around the same old hole, I suppose, as Oasis would have said. But it's not theirs, and they're not interested in it. It's ours, and we are. It's ours to keep, and you can't. These are people's emotions. You can't just play around and think, oh, it's just a name. Why don't Salford just move to Manchester? First of all, the appetite for rugby league in Manchester isn't there. As you can see from Swinton, Salford, Oldham and Rochdale, 4 hotbeds, supposedly. Not one of us can draw a proper crowd. Do you know what I mean? We're all struggling for money. It's just not there. And when you've got the 2 massive football clubs you've got, it's not going to work moving. But going back to what Paul said, he described Salford Rugby League Club as we always seem to do ourselves down, or we're a bit underdog, we're a bit this, that, and the other. That is Salford. That's the city of Salford. It fights for what it's got, and it does get a bad press when it doesn't deserve it. There's a lot of good things going on in this city, and the rugby club mirrors the whole city. We do fight for things. We do have to scrap. Nobody's ever given us anything, and it's the same for the rugby club. And even now, from the authorities in our own sport, we don't get anything. We get fines that other clubs don't get for the same issue. It's just who we are, and I think that's another thing that Paul Keaton needs to, and everybody else at the club needs to shout about and say, we are you. We represent who you are. We're not some glamour club throwing money about when the people of Salford, that's not who they are. So, I just went off on a tangent again there. But the Manchester thing is a massive no from me. It's clearly a no from Paul. Rob, I'm sure it is from you as well.
Yeah,
and 90% of all Salford fans. And I would say thank you to Manchester Council for your offer of these 3 grounds that are on the card, but no, thank you.
We spoke to George about it, and he says it doesn't make any kind of economic sense as well to go to Manchester. It doesn't benefit us financially, so why would we do it? Which is a thing really, because we were sort of force fed that, weren't we, Paul, over the years, that Manchester was the golden goose that was going to lay an egg for us, but it was just one big untruth.
I work in Manchester a lot, and you try and buy a League Express in Manchester. You try and buy a Rugby League World in Manchester. You can't buy it. They're not interested in it. So that always annoys me that I go to Manchester, I go into City Centre, I think, I'll get myself a Rugby League World magazine. Yeah, buy it anyway if I love the money. So I don't think they've ever been interested in Rugby League there. So if they did, they'd come and watch us. I mean, I know Swinton have got links with Manchester, haven't they? They have it on the shirt, and good luck to them. But we're a totally different city, aren't we? Salford is a city in its own right. It's a city that's got an awful lot of history and tradition. You think of the music that's come out of the city, the sporting. We've created a lot of history. Salford Rugby League Club has. We look at the Challenge Cup next weekend, Lance Todd Trophy, things like that. It's Salford Rugby League, the team of the 1930s, the team of the 70s. There's that much. I've heard people say like on Twitter, and usually like people who don't know anything. Oh, Salford's got no history. Salford Rugby League's got no history. All this, that, and the other. And I think, what? You could write a book. People have wrote books on. I mean, I've got a lot of Graham Morris books about Salford, and you read them. I mean, we are. You know, I wrote a little preview last week about the Wakefield game, and I was reading about their history, and they're a bit like us, sort of downtrodden. They've not won anything for a long time. Not been to Wembley for 40 odd years. 79, I think they last got there. But they were very similar to us when I was reading about them, and had a lot of success in the 60s. And you look at their history, and you think, wow, yeah, they've got a rich history in the sport, and you know, teams like us. I mean, you should be proud to support them, because you've added so much to the game and so much to the sport. So yeah, just I'm going off on a tangent now. Sorry. Yeah. So the Manchester thing for me, no, I think I'd just drift away if we went to be Manchester, and I'd be heartbroken, and I'd probably just end up going fishing or something, or just doing something totally different. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You know, when Marwan said it a few years ago, I said to me, Dad, I said, if we change the name, Dad, I'm gonna have to just say bye-bye to it. And he said, I'd be the same. He said, we couldn't do it. And I looked at him and I said, well, what are we going to talk about? What are me and you going to talk about? What are we going to do? How are we going to spend our weekends? And it's unthinkable. It'd be like losing somebody. Yeah. So please, God, I mean, I shouldn't say something like that, because it's not life or death, is it? But I'd struggle. Close. I really would. Yeah. So please, if you're listening, don't take us to Manchester, please.
Yeah, you've both gone off on tangents on this podcast, and we're about an hour now in. So what I might do, we might cut this, and then what we'll do in the next pod, we'll look at all the other news that are coming from the club and preview the Cas game. So big thanks for tuning into this podcast as we look back at the fans meeting, and tune into the next one for all the big news and the Cas preview. Hello, and welcome to this week's pop-up podcast from the Devil Detail. I'm Rob Parkinson. I'm joined by Paul Parkin and Paul Whiteside to talk all things Salford Red Devils. And what we're going to do, we're going to start off with all the big news from the club this week. So the first big news of the week, Paul Parkin, is Darcy Lussick leaves the club. Wish him well. Just didn't quite break into our team.
No, I don't know what's gone on there. When we signed him, I thought he was going to be a great signing for us. Obviously, he'd had a year out with what happened, his injury pre-season last year, and with Toronto not being able to play last year. And he's obviously struggled to get his fitness in whatever way. I don't know where the blame falls, or if there is any. So it is a shame, because I think he would have been, if things had gone right, he'd have been a massive asset, because he's always impressed me. From when he was back in Australia to coming over here, he is a good player, but it's just not worked. He does that sometimes, doesn't it, to players? So it's a loss to the squad, and won't be easy to replace at this time of the year, because as we've seen all around, the amount of players that aren't available through COVID or whatever else, it's going to be tough. But the club have made that decision. It's probably best for all parties, and hopefully, wish him all the best. He can find another club.
Yeah, it was a strange decision for me, Paul, really, because obviously with the COVID situation, we're not blessed with loads of players available for him to go. Bit of a strange decision for me.
Well, yeah, I thought it was. And I mean, I know you just said there he struggled for fitness. He spent a bit of time on loan at Featherstone, didn't he? And what have you. I find it hard sometimes. I mean, you're a full-time professional athlete. Why are you struggling for fitness? I mean, you've just been given a contract with a Super League club. I mean, if someone gave me a contract with a Super League club, I'd bite their hand off. Yeah. I'd rather do that than men boilers 5 days a week. So I don't get it sometimes. I think you've been given that opportunity. You should take it with both hands. And it sounds like he hasn't done so. Good luck to him. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't know him, but it just seemed a strange one. He came over there with a bit of a reputation, and I expected better from him. A bit disappointing, really. So if it's better for him to leave, and best for both parties, just wish him good luck and all the best.
The way our squad's looking for the Cas game, Paul, we're going to assume that you were no signal under a boiler when Richard called.
Say that again.
So considering how sort of short we are in the squad, we're going to assume that Richard rang, but you were unavailable.
Well, I'm too old now to play rugby.
Too old?
I'm too old. 38 now. I can't play rugby league. No, too old, too slow. Got 2 bad knees and a bad back. Where am I going to play?
I tell you what, walking
on the
rugby.
wing.
I think it's Tuesdays at
Mhm.
the I think it's Eccles College. I think Parker. You know,
Yeah.
we could be a force once again.
Walking rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to be able to see the ball first, wouldn't I?
Yeah, there is that.
Put a bell in it, it'll be all right. Yeah, no. Well, you mentioned all your ailments there, Paul. I think at the moment you'd still fit in well in the squad with the injuries we've got. You're more healthy than most of them with COVID knocking about. So yeah, it's tough again, isn't it? Every now and then you think, oh, we're looking better. We're going to get a couple of players back. This is going to happen, and then boom, off it all goes again. So yeah, we're doing it really tough this year. Really tough.
Yeah. Good news. Chris Atkins signs a contract extension. Paul, 2 years with an extra year option.
Yeah, great news. I thought he's the sort of player you want to build your side round. Really, he's the cornerstone of the team. Guys like him, and I think he's improved a lot this season. I was impressed with him when he played at Swinton. I saw a lot of him at Swinton and OKR. It took him a bit to find his feet in our side. The side was chopped and changed, but every time he's played, he gives 100%, and you can't ask more than that. He's a very, very committed lad. And you can see that the way he plays the game, the way he holds himself in the game, it means a lot to him. He's got that determination in his eyes. And listening to his interview this week, he sounds like he likes being at Salford. And that, sometimes players will go through the motions, won't they, and this, that, and the other. But he sounds to me like he's really in it for the long haul. And that's great. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest player in the world, but I like him. I think he works hard, and I think he can improve. I think he can get better. And if we can get somebody to play with him, a good partner for him for next season or whatever. We've got the lad coming from Tonga, haven't we? Higano, who's waiting for his visa. I don't know how he's going to go and how long he's got, but I'm glad we've nailed Chris Atkin down because he's a good guy as well as a good player. So you need people like him in your team.
Yeah, great player. Fantastic seeing him with us so far, Parky. Very versatile, playing loads of different positions. Has played for England before. If he continues that form, continues to develop, he could be knocking on the door for an international call up in the future.
For me, he's one of them players that you would love as a coach to have in your team. He works his socks off every week. He's committed. How many times does he miss? I mean, when you think back last year, we think he probably had a bit of a stuttering start to it, but we had Brown and Tui, so he wasn't going to play at halfback as such. He's waited his turn, and every time he had to fill in, he did his job. And this season, every time he's got a chance again, we speak about him every week, don't we? How impressive he is. He's always up there when you're trying to pick a man of the match. He's always in there. Great sign. I'm delighted. He seems a really good lad to have around the camp. And like we're just saying about Darcy Lussick not perhaps getting himself in the right shape. I don't think you'll ever be able to put that criticism at Chris Atkin because he seems to be up for it every week. And he's not a big lad, but he puts himself about and he's committed. He wants to be at Salford. He wants to be part of this cause, and he deserves his contract. And I'm absolutely delighted for him.
Yeah. Other news: Salford have created a learning disability team. The training is on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eccles College. I think, Paul, it's great. Obviously, the club are embracing this because obviously there'll be people out there who have learning disabilities who want to get involved in the sport. So using Salford as a vehicle for that is only going to be positive for them and for the club.
Yeah, certainly. I know offhand. My dad works with people with learning difficulties and things like that, and these people shouldn't be forgotten about. It's difficult for them sometimes in society, and everyone deserves an equal opportunity, don't they, to do things. So I think that's great. It's inclusive, and that should be about caring for people and getting people involved. So it's great to see that, and wish them all the best. Hope it takes off and people get involved in it, giving something back to the community. That's what we're all about.
So Paul's dad taps him up, Parky, and they go and play for Salford.
I mean, I'm delighted. I didn't know this news until you told me before we started, Rob, about this, and I'm over the moon. I think it's another step in us. Again, like we've mentioned before, we don't bang our own drum. This is huge. This is offering again chances to people who don't get chances. What a wonderful thing. I mean, the work that has to go into doing this a learning difficulty team it isn't just about getting them out and having a bit of fun playing rugby. There are other conditions. People suffer different ways. you know, and it's being able to focus the people involved from the club and foundation and everything else to get themselves into a position to be able to support these people properly. But I'm absolutely over the moon, and the sooner we get, you know, more like this, and then moving on, you know, hopefully in the future more, hopefully an academy one day, but into the women's teams and everything else, the more the merrier. And again, we need to tell people about this. You know, I don't get the local rag anymore, the advertising. We've not had it delivered for about 15 years. But there are several things that the council put out, communication, sort of pamphlets and that kind of stuff. We should be in that. We should be, every household in Salford should know this is available now, and surrounding areas. Again, it's another one of them things where not everybody can play football. Not everybody can play rugby. Not everyone plays cricket. Not everyone goes boxing. But there's something for everybody out there. And this might be right up someone's Strasser. Do you know what I mean? And I'm over that. I'm probably going on it here, but I'm delighted to hear about it. I think it's brilliant. And, you know, full kudos to the club.
Yeah, great stuff. The sad news, the bad news of the week was our local amateur side, Salford City Roosters, storage facility was damaged by fire. Paul, the rugby league community in Salford all rallied round and gave the club equipment to keep them going. It's a sad story because obviously the local youths have you know done this, but it's great that Salford and the RFL have stepped in and helped them.
Yeah, I saw that, and yeah, I think sometimes you question society, don't you? If these youths that have done that, you know, why? You should be supporting them people because that's giving something to your community. So you don't want to destroy it and make a mess of it. You should be supporting it because you know one day you might want to go and play rugby league, or your son might want to go and play rugby league. So I don't know. So I question people's mentality sometimes, and you know you can't really grasp it. But on the other hand, I mean, it was great to see, you know, the club getting behind it and supporting him. And we said before, didn't we? We've just been talking on our last podcast about us not having much money and struggling and that, but yet the club's always there to help out. I don't think we've got a lot at Salford, have we? But you know, they're giving him what we've not got. So no, I think that's great. I think we've got some real good relationships now with our local community sides, and we need to keep building that, don't we? I know Swinton have good relationships with Folly and things like that, but I think you know the net's big enough there for us to both do that, and you know, if we can cast our net, you know, a bit further to like Rochdale and Oldham and that, and work with those community teams, I think it's great. But that was a good news story, I thought, and you know, good proud club, Salford City Roosters, and they've been doing really well this season, and the open age side have as well, so that's been good to see. So yeah, I'm glad they've got some more kit. But them people who've done that, I mean, you need to have a look at yourself because it's just daft, isn't it?
Yeah, the Roosters are celebrating the 40th anniversary. Parker, obviously a big blow for them, but I'd say the rugby league community getting behind them and getting back on equal footing.
I think it certainly shows both sides of society, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, scumbags is one word, and then you see the generosity of Salford and rugby league in general, and that's when rugby league's great, by the way. When we do all fight for the same cause, because rugby league as a sport fights against everybody. So yeah. You know, it's great to see that. Salford City Roosters, as all our local amateur clubs do, offer so much to the community. You know, they get these kids training twice a week or whatever. You know, we get people off the street, if you like. You know,
yeah,
they're not getting into mischief. The dedication and I've lost the word I'm thinking of, but the discipline, I think, of being a rugby league player or at any level is massive. It can put a structure into your life that may not have been there. There's all sorts of benefits to amateur sport and sport in general. And what Salford Roosters have done over the last year, you know, the new clubhouse is coming on and that kind, you know, these things are temporary for a reason at the moment. And somebody thinks in their own crazy little world that I know what I'll do. I'll set fire to it. Why? Is it funny? Is fire funny? I don't see the, you know, once a year maybe, and then it's annoying. It's stupid, and all the efforts they're putting in to make that community around the area better. Have a venue that they can go to. You know, I mean, obviously the clubhouse won't just be used for rugby league. You can have your parties there or whatever else. I can't make head and tail of it, and I just wish them all the best and hope it is all sorted now, and we get to move on and they can have some more success.
Yeah, Salford City Roosters, as well as all our other local amateur clubs, Paul, sort of become vehicles for the youth to make the best of themselves, done it? And obviously with Salford trying to invest in that process, you're kind of hoping that won't happen again, and we're going in a different direction society wise.
Well, yeah, I think local amateur clubs, to me, they're a bit of a beacon in your community, aren't they? Really, I mean, you've got lads and girls going down there training twice a week. It's keeping you off the streets, isn't it? And perhaps, going forward in the future, Salford Rugby can perhaps run youth clubs and things like that. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to go to youth club a couple of nights a week, kept me off the streets where I lived and what have you. And I'm sure, some of the clubs might be able to do stuff like that as well. But when you've got people doing that, it just hampers it, doesn't it, and all that good work that they're doing. So I can't understand that. But yeah, these clubs are vital. Getting kids playing sport. Whatever sport you do, kids need to be active and doing things, don't they? And when you get them young like that, they're going to follow the club as well, and especially now because you've got players going to training as well, haven't you? Salford players are getting involved, going down there, and that must be great. That if you're a young kid, and I remember I played a bit of amateur rugby when I was sort of 8 or 9 in Rochdale, and a couple of Hornets players come to training once. I think it was Matt Calland actually was one of them, who's the coach now.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh great, I want some Salford players to come. I played over there at the time, but that must be great for them. So yeah, I think the amateur clubs all do really well, and the more we can work with them, the better. But great to see that story this week.
Yeah, other news, our game against Wakefield will be played on the 16th of July. No venue confirmed yet. I'm sure the club will be letting us know, well, shortly, because it's only next week. So we can all get organised to try and get to said venue. Final bit of news, Parky. Our squad has been decimated by COVID. 5 positive tests, 11 self-isolating. Threadbare squad. Doing it tough.
Very tough. COVID obviously on the rise again, as we've seen in certainly the rates are. I think it's difficult when if 5 players have got it, and they're in contact with someone, then how long are you in contact for and all that. I mean, there's a lot goes into it, but it's going to kill us. And this week, looking at the Castleford squad that they're putting out, well, this would have been a great chance for us to get our season on track, get a big away win. They've got Wembley next week, and I don't think for 1 minute they wouldn't have their mind on that, because if you haven't, there's something wrong with them, no matter what they tell you. Every player is thinking ahead to the big ones. So we would have had a great chance, but now we drafted in players from, I don't know, out to Mongolia or RLFC and everywhere else we can, players that nobody else has ever heard of. No, he's tough. And again, Richie Marshall must think, is he cursed? Is he, did Watto leave something in the changing rooms that have, cursed that club now? Because I don't ever remember having so many. We didn't really have COVID last year, the team, and we certainly didn't have that many injuries and suspensions. So we are doing it tough, and it is going to be another tough one. But the lads that play have just got to put that shirt on and do what they can, whether they're on loan or whether they've got a contract. I see Christian Inu's back in this week, which is great news. Adds be a big bonus and a big lift to the squad, because I think he is, a very popular character, and what he offers. There are going to be young kids in there, the lads we're loaning in. He's got a lot of experience. He's been there and done it. As he played in like 4 grand finals on both sides of the world or something. People like that are going to be without, with the loss of Mossop and people like that to suspension, Sarge. So we are doing it tough, but the lads have just got to knuckle down, get through this, and in a few weeks' time, fingers crossed, no more suspensions and injuries and COVID, we might see our first team on the field, and the back of the season might look a lot different.
Yeah, we brought in Ben Davis again and Dan Norman from Saints. Paul, Dan Norman, 23 years old, played for Widnes, played for London, played for Crusaders, 6'5". So he's a big unit.
Yeah, he's a big lad. I've seen a bit of him on Sky for St Helens playing for them. I remember him playing for London actually, and decent prospect, decent player. Ben Davis, I thought was tremendous. in the couple of games he played at Hull Car and Huddersfield, didn't he, in the 2 away games, and I thought he played really well in both. So glad he's come back, and he's Dougie Davis's grandson as well, so he's got a bit of a link with Salford, hasn't he? So yeah, glad to see him back. And remember saying to you guys at the time, it's a shame we can get him for longer than 2 weeks. So sometimes a month I think is a bit better in it to keep you going. So yeah, we're doing it tough at the moment. And I was just giggling to myself then when Parky said about Watto leaving something in the changing rooms, cursing us. Mind you, I think Huddersfield are cursed, aren't they? One of their players just got banned for 10 games, hasn't he? So they're doing it tough. And just another thing that's just brightened me day up a bit, thinking there about the back end of the season and getting players back together. We play Huddersfield in about a month's time, don't we, as well? So at home, so it'd be nice if we've got a full complement of players to pick from when we play them, and get Sargi back in as well. That'd be good. So I think we're going to do it tough next couple of weeks. We've got this this game against Wakefield, haven't we? This rearranged where we don't know where it's at next Friday. We've got Castaway this week, and I think we play Leeds, don't we, the week after away. So we've got some tough away games, haven't we, coming before we come back to the AJ Bell again. So yeah. But this week against Cass, I think, even with the guys that we've got in on loan, I still think we've got a good chance of winning that game, to be honest with you. And I know they've rested a few and brought 4 academy lads in, haven't they? So it's going to be a tough game, but I think we can get a result.
Yeah, we'll finish with the good news, Parker. Rugby League in Wales, Paul Rowley and Ian Blease went down to Wales in the middle of the week to sort of train with well, not to train, but to train the lads down there. Fantastic. Like we said, that we're able to do that and have them links with the Welsh.
Yeah, very much so. I've heard so many great things about a lot. Obviously, our team itself, but our foundation team, but the Welsh lads down there. I'm led to believe from people I've spoken to that there's some special players there.
Yeah,
some really good players. One in particular that's been singled out to me, whose name has escaped me now, but a Welsh lad that I don't really want to say it because I know what'll happen. But if other teams in Super League get their eyes on him, they'll have him, and they do have the benefit of an academy. The problem we've got is that these kids play against Salford. They know about us, and Salford are very keen to get them to come to us. But what can we offer them in terms of moving forward? There's nowhere they couldn't play for an academy because we're not allowed to have one. In another absolute stupid decision by the RFL. But actually getting them up here from Wales, wherever it is, mid Wales or wherever it is, to come up and train with our lads, to get into the Salford way, to learn off, and hopefully get a crack running with the first team at some point. We need. That's something we've got to look at for the future. The structure of bringing players from other areas. Our history of the Welsh is well known. All our success in anything we've ever had has been based around Welsh players, and there's some really good ones down there right now that we need to pick up and bring to our club and tie them down for the future, and show them there's a pathway to rugby league in the northwest for them. But it's going to take a lot of planning to find them accommodation, perhaps, or pay transport fees for them, or whatever it is. These are kids, the college kids. They're not going to have the brass to do it. So a lot to go on, and I know Danny Barton and Jan Blackburn and all them lot are doing. We've said it before, they're doing a phenomenal job, and I'd hate to see it go to waste. Where we have got our good Salford kids there, and we could supplement them with players from other areas, and that we might lose out on because of decisions taken out of our own hands. So something that the club and the fans have got to get together on this, and hopefully we can find some way of getting these lads up here, even if it's just to test how good they are.
Yeah, there's some absolute units in that Welsh squad, Paul, and like Parky said, it's the nuts and bolts of the situation where if we were to bring them up, because we haven't got an academy, we haven't got anywhere to house them yet, but it's coming. But will this sort of breed go to waste while we organise it? That's the big question.
Well, you might miss out on a few of them because we've not got those building blocks in place. But at the moment, that pathway have we to get them up here and to house them, as you say. But there's nothing to say that we might not have that in a couple of years' time. So the more work you can do down there now sets the foundations in place, doesn't it? And I think it's great to have ties with the Welsh lads down there and perhaps let's get a supporters branch down there of Salford supporters and get those Welsh people involved, because like you just said there, we've got a massive history with Welsh players, the likes of Davy Watkins and Colin Dixon from the 70s, people like that, and I can think of others as well that have played for Adrian Hadley, one of my first favourite players. So there's been loads of Welsh players. Phil Ford, another one there. Should have done a list really, shouldn't we? So there's been loads, hasn't there? So I mean, Welsh. I mean, I'm no rugby union fan. I've never liked rugby union really, but when I watch the Five Nations on the telly, I always support Wales because I don't mind Wales because we've had loads of players off them in the past. So yeah, I think it's great to work with them. It really is. But like you said, we've just sort of got to tread a bit of water, haven't we, for the next few years until we can get this academy. Like Parky said there, it's a travesty that we haven't got that. But that's an argument for another day, isn't it? So yeah, I think we've just got to put the blocks in place.
Yeah, so that's all the big news coming from the club. And next up, we'll have a look what's happening in the amateur scene with you, Paul.
Right, well, here is this week's Devil in the Detail amateur report, and we shall start with the National Conference Leagues as we usually do. 3 games were postponed this week due to COVID. It was Clockface Miners and Oldham St Anne's, Saddleworth Rangers and Woolston Rovers, and also Wigan St Jude's game against Waterhead Warriors. They were all postponed. One result came in, and that was Crossfields 30, Rochdale Mayfield 26. The fixtures for this week: Saturday the 10th of July, League C, Rochdale Mayfield at home to Saddleworth Rangers, Waterhead Warriors play Crossfields, and there's a match in the Cross League between Lee East and Oldham St Anne's. Right, well, turning our attention to the youth leagues, the North West Youth 16s to 18s. The under 16s Thursday night, Blackbrook Royals 32, Waterhead Warriors 8. On Sunday, it was the under 18s Premier Division. There's some results here for you, just the one actually. It's Thatto Heath Crusaders 22, Oldham St Anne's 12. In Division 3, Leyland Warriors beat Cadishead Rhinos by 60 points to 0. In the under 16s on Sunday, Rochdale Mayfield in Division 2 beat Thatto Heath Crusaders 28 points to 6. In Division 3, Langworthy Reds 16, Roos Pioneers 36. The fixtures for this week: Sunday the 11th of July in the under 18s Lancashire Cup, Oldham St Anne's play Hindley. In the North West Youth Cup under 18s, Saddleworth Rangers are at home to Cadishead Rhinos. In the under 16s Lancashire Cup, Salford City Roosters are at home to Blackbrook Royals, and West Bank Bears take on the Saddleworth Rangers. In the North West Youth Cup of the under 16s, Roos Pioneers play West Horton Lions, and Portico Vine are at home to Rochdale Mayfield. Well, the North West Men's League on Saturday, Bury Broncos game against Charlie Panthers in Division 1 was a no result. So we'll start in Division 2, Folly Lane 30, Cadishead Rhinos 42, big Salford derby there, plenty of points in that one as well. Wigan St Pat's A 22, West Horton Lions 34, terrific win there for West Horton Lions in that match. In Division 4, Higginshaw 22, Burton Woodbridge 36, Langworthy Reds 22, Garswood Stags 26. And in Division 5 South and East, Burton Wood Chargers beat Bolton Mets by 42 points to 14. Fixtures this week, it all gets underway on Thursday night, the 8th of July. Wigan Bulldogs are at home to Salford City Roosters, that's in Division 3. On Saturday, the 10th of July, Division 1, Bury Broncos are at home to Dalton. Hares Finch play Oldham St Anne's A. In Division 2 on Saturday, Cadishead Rhinos are at home to Wigan Springview, and Thatto Heath Crusaders B play Folly Lane. West Horton Lions return home to play Pilkington Rex A. In Division 3, Rochdale Mayfield they face Lee East A. Division 4, Clockface Miners A are at home to Langworthy Reds. Higginshaw play Blackpool Scorpions. Division 5 North and West, Orrell St James A play Higginshaw. And Division 5 South and East, Bolton Mets are at home to Runcorn. And Halton Sims Cross A face the Waterhead Warriors. Well, we'll now turn our attention now to the professional game, life outside Super League as we normally do. Betfred Championship, it was round 12 at the weekend. Bradford Bulls beat Batley Bulldogs 30 points to 16. Dewsbury Rams and Sheffield Eagles drew 18 points apiece. That was after the Dewsbury Rams had led that game 18 points to 4 at half-time. Featherstone Rovers, their juggernaut kept rolling. They beat London Broncos by 63 points to 12. And that game is the final game in charge of Danny Ward, who has now left the club. London Broncos coach, done a terrific job there in the years he's been there, and I'm pretty sure he'll get snapped up as a coach by somebody else. Halifax Panthers, fantastic game. This was 16 points to 6 down at half time at home to Widnes Vikings. They came back in the second half and won that match by 17 points to 16, a late drop goal a minute from time in that one there. So terrific win by Halifax Panthers. They carry on climbing the league table. Swinton Lions went down 36 points to 22 at Whitehaven, and York City Knights were beaten again. They lost at home to Newcastle Thunder by 28 points to 26. Another fantastic match there. In Betfred League 1, Barrow 31, Doncaster 6. Barrow continue their terrific run. They stay top of the table. Coventry Bears 46, Hunslet 44. This was another tremendous game. Hunslet, I believe, about 40 odd points up in that game, and Coventry Bears have stormed back in that match. Chris Wellham's brother Liam scored a try as well in that match, and they won 46 points to 44. Great game. North Wales Crusaders 34, Keighley Cougars 28. A bit of a shock there. Rochdale Hornets had another good win. They beat London Scholars by 22 points to 4 and got another terrific crowd as well, and over 1,000 in Spotland Stadium again for that. So they seem to be building something special there, Rochdale. Good luck to them next week. Workington Town had a regulation win over West Wales Raiders. They won by 66 points. And the West Wales Raiders really struggling at the moment there. Fixtures for this week then. Betfred League 1. There's one game on Saturday. That's Rochdale Hornets. They travel away from home to West Wales Raiders. In the Betfred Championship, all the rest of the games are going to be played on Sunday the 11th of July. Batley Bulldogs are at home to Toulouse Olympic. These are all 3 o'clock kickoffs on Sunday. Halifax Panthers Whitehaven. London Broncos face York City Knights. Newcastle Thunder play Dewsbury Rams. Oldham play Bradford. Swinton Lions will be looking for their first win of the season at home to Sheffield. They've lost 12 out of 12 now, Swinton, but that's a game they can win, that Sheffield. Big game for them down there at Sedgley Park, at Haywood Road where they play now, in Sale. Widnes Vikings are at home to Featherstone Rovers. And in the Betfred League 1, there's 3 fixtures on Sunday. It's Hunslet against North Wales Crusaders at 3. Keighley Cougars play Barrow at 3. And the 2 o'clock kickoff at Derwent Park between Workington Town and the Coventry Bears. That's all I've got for you this week. I shall see you soon.
So that's your amateur report, Paul. Next up, let's look forward to the Castleford game on Sunday.
It's time for the Devil of the Details Big Match Preview.
So, Salford Red Devils travel to Castleford Tigers on Sunday. Parky, both sides depleted due to COVID, and Cass playing the cup final next week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens really regarding teams.
Yeah, like we said before, he's tough at the moment, but he's going to be tough for both teams. I know they've had a few players limping recently, Cass, and they want to risk them for the final because. I think one of them is probably Paul McShane, who is an absolute phenomenon. And when he plays against us, every time he just does the damage. You take him out of that team, you've got a different team. I don't know who else, isn't in there as such, but we've just got to match him. And going to Weldon Road or Jungle or whatever you want to, Mender Hose, whatever it's called these days, he's never easy. Never has been for Salford. Our record against Cass he's up there with Leeds and St Helens, I think. And they've always had some kind of thing over us. So going there, if we could go there and get a result, like we said, that could be that, that one catalyst. We get a couple of players back for the Wakefield game, perhaps, and moving on again. It just gives us a boost. A good away win again, like the Huddersfield one. It'd be hard fought no matter what happens. But Cass, for me, it'd be a case of, and I don't think it happens as much these days, but I remember back in the 80s, Kevin Ashcroft's team talked before a game. If you came up against a team that was going to Wembley in the next few weeks, get in and hurt them early. Get it in their mind that they might get injured here and they won't be in the final. They don't want any knocks, not 7 days out from a cup final. They don't care who you are. But I know you can't go into a rugby league game thinking, I might get hurt, because if you think that, you will. But just put that element of doubt in there. Don't cross the line, because we can't afford to lose any more players. But, be hard, but be fair. And, we'll try it from there. But Cass have got a lot to think about in the next few days. Some of these lads will probably think about having the suits fitted or whatever else, and making sure they pack their phone charger or whatever. I don't know, but it's a good chance for us. It really is. It's just a shame we have got players missing, but them that are coming in, it's their chance to shine.
Is it a free hit for both sides, Paul? Because obviously, due to injuries and COVID, they've drafted academy players in Cass. We've got a few people on loan who are from different people's academies, so nothing to lose, really.
No, I don't think so. And I think listening to what Darryl Powell said this week at I think he would have liked it to have been postponed, really, to be honest with you. There's two sides of the coin, really. I mean, if you're a Cas player, you've got to be careful in this game. You don't want to get an head knock. You don't want to miss the cup final. But on the other hand, Cas have not played for 2 games. They've missed the last 2 matches due to COVID. So if it was me, I don't know. It's 50-50. You don't want to go into a Challenge Cup final cold without playing a game for 3 weeks. So I think Daryl Powell's in a bit of a difficult situation. He's going to have to play some of his decent players because he wants them to be right for the final. So it's a tough one for them. I don't think Jake Truman's in the squad, so I think he's rested him. Brought 4 academy players in, but I would say he put quite a strong side out. I would have thought some of those academy lads are probably in the bench, and he'll bring them on in the second half. But for me, over the last sort of few months since he got to the cup final, Powell has put his eggs in one basket really, and been going for this cup game. They've not been very impressive in the league. I think they've been pretty poor, haven't they? They've had some hammerings. So yeah, we've just got to go there. I mean, if I was Richard Marshall, I'd be saying to the players, let's go out there and let's get into these and let's smash them early doors. If we get into them and play it really close to the bone. Don't be taking somebody's head off like Sargent did, and don't get anybody sent off again because we don't do 4 games running. But I'd really get into the ribs and knock them off the stride. And I think if you do that, I don't think they'll want to know, and we'll get a result.
Yeah, I think it's down to psychological really, because obviously, like you said, Cas will have that one eye on the cup final. So we are professional and play the sets out, crank the pressure on them, Parky. Then they might crack, and that's where we come in and take the points.
Extra edge there, different elements of the game. So it'd be an intriguing game. It's a shame, really. It has felt like this because I've never had any love for Castleford, but under Daryl Powell, I do like the way they play rugby league, and they're not being able to do that at the moment because of COVID, because of all the injuries, rushing games in, as we found out last year with our cup final. We played on Tuesday before the cup final, so Cats have actually got, it's like paradise. But he's got that in his mind as well, so he might want to change the style of play a little bit, do something different. And I think both teams on paper, if we could get both full teams on the pitch, it'd been a cracking match. It really would. We've played them twice already this year. We got close to in the end in the cup game, where I think we're a bit unlucky. Obviously going into extra time. The league game again, a couple of decisions went against us, and that cost us. So there's not much between the two teams. So it's an intriguing one. It's just it's just a shame it's under these circumstances.
Score prediction, Paul. Have you done your preview on the old League Express yet?
Yeah, but I think I'm going to change it.
Oh,
no, I'm still going for a Salford win.
Oh, good.
Unlike Parky. Sorry today. I'm going to go a bit closer. I think I had about 24-18 or something like that. But I think it's going to rain. It might rain on Sunday, so I'm going to go Castleford 8, Salford 14. Tight game.
8-14, Parky. Was that an untruth from Paul there about Salford not winning this week on your prediction?
No. But in all fairness, I do back against us most weeks. No, in all fairness, that's before I saw the squads, and I didn't know that Castleford were going to end up leaving out some very, very key players. And on that basis, I probably would have changed it. Thinking about it now. Again, the COVID outbreaks killed us. If we could have got a full team out, there'd be no doubt at a back Salford on everything. Probably got to the bookies, to be honest with you, because we will still get a start on the handicap. I'll go Cast 10, Salford 16.
10-16.
Yeah,
Always make sure you bet responsibly. I've got to add that bit in, especially with you, Paul, and your betting ways.
Just check my accumulator. Actually, I've got Leeds and thingy. I've got 4 out of 5 now. I just need Canterbury to get Tonk tomorrow and 60 odd quid.
Could be on. I'll pay for your petrol to Cass.
Well, I dropped a bit of a googler tonight. I put £10 on Ash Hanley to score a try any time for Leeds. He didn't even bloody play. He wasn't even in the team. So I don't know. Never mind.
My prediction, I'm going to go for a blowout scoreline, Salford's favour, Cast 10, Salford 40. Experience will prevail, even though we are short, but we've got more more experience than they have, I feel.
You're expecting a bit from the loan signings there, then?
I am. Youth will come into play. Exuberance of youth will be there to see for all.
What I would do, by the way, every time we get a penalty, I would give the ball to Inu and say, boot that for us.
Yeah.
Come away from the post with 2 points every time this time. Not like we did against Leeds, which I thought was a ridiculous decision to take the 2. Away from at home at Castleford, take every kick you can possibly get because he'll land most of them.
Yeah.
So advantage. That's what you got to do. You sort of take what you can out of the game. And once, if you get a decent lead, a 10-point lead, just kill the game off. And I'm actually slightly more optimistic, I think, than I thought it would be. A rare win at Weldon Road.
That's what we're hoping for, Parker. That's what we're hoping for. So, big fact tunes this week's podcast from the Devil of Detail. I'm Rob Parkinson. You can find us on Facebook, Devil of Detail SRD. You can find us on Twitter at DITDSRD. And you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Radio Contact, Spotify, and YouTube. So, tune in, subscribe, and we'll be talking Salford Red Devils next week.